Welcome to Cancer Chat with Michelle from Big Valley Living and Tom Garvey, the Keto Cook. Today, two survivors will be talking about their journey with cancer. Let's go to the chat. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cancer Chat. I'm Tom.
And I'm Michelle.
Michelle, how you doing? Okay?
I'm good. How are you this week, Tom?
Well, I can't complain. Nobody will listen. So I think today what we're going to be discussing is, as we did the intro last week, of what we are suffering from, or did suffer from, or trying to prevent what we're suffering from, is the cancers and how we were told about it and what the diagnosis, how we became to know about our cancers and what the procedures were from there. So if you want, you can take the reins with it.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Tom.
Wait a minute.
Okay, well, I'll go into my story there for a minute then. So in 2017, I had been experiencing various issues with my bowel habits, and they had changed pretty radically, and it escalated quickly. And so I went to my doctor for a normal 50-year-old checkup, and that was around the beginning of September of 2017. And when I filled out the questionnaire for him, I went in and I did talk about the changes in my bowel habits, and he followed up on it during my meeting with him, my appointment. And because of the answers that I provided to him and the changes in the shape and color of my stool were what really got his attention. So he immediately worked out, getting me over to a gastroenterologist. And so I saw the gastroenterologist around the very beginning of October, which I thought was pretty good, pretty quick, because you have to get insurance approvals and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I went in, met with the gastroenterologist, talked to him, and he got me on the fast track to get my first colonoscopy. So that colonoscopy was near the end of October. And I gotta say, I was so deathly afraid of having a colonoscopy. So that big of a deal, for Pete's sake. Anyway, so I went in and got that. And when we were almost done with it, I actually kind of woke up because they put you in like a twilight sleep. So you're asleep, but you're not asleep. You're kind of awake. And so I could see what was going on the screen, and he was burning out polyps, but he was also making marks inside of my colon. And I had asked, what are you doing? He said, well, just stay still, please. Let me finish up, and then we'll talk. So I was supposed to have my husband just meet me downstairs when we were completely finished.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the plan. The doctor was going to call my husband, or his office would call my husband. My husband would meet me down at the front door, and we'd be off on our way. And then I'd get the report about a week or two later from the gastroenterologist. Well, when I got dressed and expected that my husband would be coming up, the doctor came in and said, well, I have your husband coming up because we need to talk. So at that point, I'm obviously a little apprehensive, and that's putting it lightly.
To say the least.
So, right. So my husband came up, and I can't even remember. I think we were in the exam room, like where you get dressed and everything. And we were talking to the doctor, and he said, I've been doing this for, over 30 years. And I know what the characteristics look like when we're looking at cancer versus regular benign polyps. And he said, I can't give you a firm answer right now, but he sent those to the lab to have them checked right away, as quickly as possible.
Right.
And he called me. I was at work a couple days later, and the doctor called, and told me that I did indeed have, there were cancer cells in those polyps and that we needed to get surgery scheduled right away. And I just remember I was waiting for my husband to pick me up from work because we did ride sharing back then. And I just remember it seemed like the longest time while I waited for him to come pick me up. And I'm standing there by myself, right, hoping to God that none of my coworkers would would come down because I didn't know what I would say, right? They tell you you have cancer, and I don't think anybody can prepare for it, even though I had time to digest it. You still don't. I kept thinking Pollyanna, I kept thinking, oh, it was a mistake, they're going to find out there's nothing there. And, so that's it. So then you start thinking, I have cancer. And
Mm.
when I heard that, I pretty much was thinking, well, I'm going to die. I mean, it's just what your head does. I guess that's what my head did.
And just to follow up a little bit with it with you on that, the
Mhm.
whole idea, okay, of being told something like that. Now you kind of think in the back of your mind, this don't sound good, or whenever they say surgery's involved, we need to do this right away. Right away, there's a problem,
Mhm.
okay, and we know that. That
Right.
deep down inside, even if we're not medical professionals or whatever, all right.
Mhm.
And just what you said there, it hit me like just now with a ton of bricks, is because you are alone.
Right.
You are
Even
so
with your spouse there,
you are so
it's not
alone with
in
that.
them.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, I tell you,
Yeah.
it gets into your head so bad about it, and then right away is you're gonna die, flat out. No other way around it, right? But you had surgery pretty quickly, though, didn't you, Michelle?
Yeah, I did. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
That never goes away. Um, so yeah, they got immediately, well, my doctor was notified. So I saw my general practitioner and talked to him about, next steps and everything else because he's the flight director at that point, right? He's the one who is putting just everything together with all the different doctors, and he he's not a surgeon, but he has been in practice for, I think, about 45 years.
Okay.
So he knew all the incoming doctors in the system, and he's kind of like the grandfather, right? And he told me, um, I am going to make sure that you get the surgeon that I got. He said, she's the best. She is absolutely the best. And I'm going to make sure that you get an appointment with her and that she will do your surgery. And he did. He made sure that happened. And when I met her, immediately I had full faith in her abilities. I knew why he sent me to her. Um, so we talked, and within a week or two of that appointment, I was in surgery, and just still not knowing when I
Right.
would finish with surgery if I was going to come out whole or if I was going to come out with an ostomy with a bag.
Hmm.
See, lots of unknowns even going into the surgery.
Yeah, and the hard thing about something like that, knowing my story's similar to that, but I didn't have the opportunity to have it done right away. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So, but just to get comfortable with the person who's going to do, I feel that your life is in their hands, type of thing. But feel comfortable with them to go
Hmm.
ahead and, because that's the stress reliever also. Okay, you're told you got
Hmm.
cancer. All right, now you got to go in for surgery. Okay,
Hmm.
soon, sooner rather than later.
And you have to tell people.
Yeah, exactly. I can't come to work tomorrow because, you know,
You got to
exactly.
tell your family.
Oh, that's we're going to get into that one big time because that's the thing that wrecked me. I mean, just the mental aspect of it. See, in my case, I was passing blood. Not a lot, but you knew it was there. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And what I did was I turned around and put it off because I had so much on my plate at the time. Okay, I explained last week. I had a calamity of errors go on in my life, trying to better myself. Okay, but the bottom line was that I went in. I knew something was wrong, but never knew that it was bladder cancer. Now people say, "Oh, bladder cancer is pretty common." You know that drives me insane when people say that. Okay, well that's pretty common. It's a common cancer. Shouldn't be any
Mm-hmm.
cancer, none, none whatsoever. But what happened was they turned around. I went to see one doctor, and he right away sent me for an ultrasound. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
now I'm working. And because at that point, prior to that, I had no health insurance. I had my own health insurance, but that fell by the wayside as soon as they started going back and forth to different doctors and stuff. Um, had to tell my job that guess what I have to go. I can't come to work tomorrow because I have to go and get a checkup, whatever. And then they did the ultrasound. Went
Mm-hmm.
back in to see the doctor, and I didn't care for this one guy at one point because he sort of beat around the bush. Well, there's ways we can do this, ways we can figure it out. But I'm going to send you to a urologist
Mm-hmm.
to further on. Well, the paperwork got mixed up.
Oh,
This went over here,
great.
this and over. So I'm still passing blood. Pain's getting a little worse and worse. And we lived in North Carolina, so at that time we were living in Fayetteville because I was working at a apartment complex as a maintenance man because I needed to get insurance. All right, sounds
Mm-hmm.
kind of cheesy or whatever, but that's the only way I could have got anything done. I knew something else was wrong, but my personal insurance company dropped me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we wind up going to um, up around Raleigh area, actually Cary, Cary, North Carolina, which is there's a bunch of doctors around there. And I went into this one big complex. It was me and Marie, and I went in, and the doctor shook hands. Hello, how you doing? Little gray-haired guy, looked like he wanted to fight. One of them kind of guys. Got somebody I like. And he said, "Do you have somebody here with you?" I said, "Yeah, my wife." "Oh no, she's got to come in here also." I said, "Bitch, this I
That's
don't
not
I don't want
good.
I don't want this right here." So
Mm-hmm.
there again, I like a straight shooter, but I could start to feel my knees start to buckle a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Well, anyway, I they go get Marie. Marie comes in now. She's a nervous wreck. Okay, because that's not a good sign. So he starts telling me about you have a carcinoma. The way it looks right now, we're going to have to go in and take a look. How do you do that?
Oh.
And then he explained, and I went, "You're going to do what?" Now I sort of get my hair up in the back. I was going to walk out and say, "No, no, you're not," and deal with it. He says to me, "Let me explain something to you. All right, a man your age is going to wind up two ways: either getting this fixed or some kind of bag, and people that have the bag only last 6 months to a year."
Really?
I looked at this guy and I said, "Whoa, wait a minute! Yeah, it hasn't been perfected yet." So most people that have their bladder taken out
Mm-hmm.
because it's invasive, they wind up getting a bag, and some people they might go a couple years. They said 5 years is the max, but this guy was such a straight shooter. I said, "Okay." So I said, "Well, when are we gonna do this?" He said, "Right now." No, okay,
Like
I'll get
right
ready
now today?
today, right now. Tell talk to Marie a little bit. Marie leaves, and I had to strip down and had to go through this procedure, and that's where they take a scope. It's a hose, and it goes into your penis, into your bladder, and then they look around. Not
Oh.
fun, not fun. Um, I said, Jesus, crying out loud! I mean, could it be any worse? Or would I kick a puppy or something? I mean, I don't know.
Oh my God.
After we got done, and I started bleeding more the whole bit, and I went into his office. See, you don't do that stuff no more. You don't go into the doctor's office no more. Sit down by his desk and talk to him. We went back in again. He said, Mr. Garvey does not look good. I see multiple tumors. We got to schedule you to come into the hospital here, right, right next door, and we get this thing taken care of. So I'm an hour, and 15 minutes away from, or an hour and a half away from my house to the hospital. Marie don't drive. She has a license, but she don't drive that much. She's a nervous wreck driving. So we go home. I'm driving, and I'm like, I'm done. I don't know what to do. She knows now. My family. I got to let my family know. I got to let my daughter, who's pregnant at the time, and my little grandson used to follow me, 6 years old, follow me around, and all this stuff starts running through my head. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And then we went from there. But just from that point, from the beginning until I seen the urologist, the mental stuff that was blowing through my head about, well, I got to take care of
Mm-hmm.
Marie. I got to make sure we do this. Got to make sure we do that. And I got I got to tell you, we lived so we had to move from Fayetteville back into Clinton, a little town in North Carolina, out in the middle of nowhere, old
Mm-hmm.
farmhouse. That I mean, when the wind blew through, but curtains in both rooms were blown. That's how many leaks were in the house. But that's beside the point. The whole idea was, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? When the doctor or somebody of authority tells me something and tells me the scenario of how it's going to be, I take the worst case of it,
Sure.
and then just roll. That stays in my head. To me, there's no bright side. It's always the doom and the gloom. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said last week, when this is the guy who sent me to afterwards sent me to this seminar. Okay, it was bladder cancer association or some stuff like that, some affiliate or whatever it was. That all these people were talking about growing their bladder. It was a new
Mm-hmm.
thing from stem cell and stuff like that. That was the first thing from my mind. You ain't gonna grow me one. What the hell do I look like? Farmer Nadell. You know what I mean? But here you think that life's going along pretty good. You make some life changes, and all of a sudden, bam, bam, you get hit. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
just was horrible. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't know how you came about telling everybody, but
Well, it's hard, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, whew,
I um JJ was with me. Um so that when I heard, right, JJ was with me, and um then I'm going to pause right here. So the first person I need to tell, and this is still to this day, it's so hard to say, was I needed to tell my mom. My dad had already passed. I needed to tell my brother and his wife. We're very close with them. And then I have three beautiful stepchildren. I needed to tell them. And then it's sort of like phone tree. Mom, you can tell these people if you don't mind. And brother, you can tell these people if you don't mind, because I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to say it out loud without losing control.
yeah,
And then I still had a lot to do anyway, and a lot of answers I still didn't have. But I can remember, I called my mom. She lived in an apartment not far from us, and it was a weeknight, right? It was this very same day that I had received the phone call, and I hadn't said anything about my preliminary results because I wanted to hear more from the doctor. And so, for all they knew, I just went in for a colonoscopy because I was going to be 50 years old, and that was it. I didn't talk about symptoms or any of that with anyone because they're embarrassing. And so I called my mom and I said, "Hey, JJ and I need to come over and talk to you tonight." And she just started crying on the phone because it just wasn't normal that we would just pop in, hey, are you
Something's
busy?
wrong.
We're going to pop in. Yeah. So we had that conversation, and then I had to tell my brother. He's my only brother. He's my rock.
Yeah.
He's everything. So, you don't know what's going to happen when you're telling people, and you don't have answers. I'm not going to know until after we have surgery,
Right.
and we're not going to know how far advanced it is, and all of that. So I got through all that, and then the next day I had to go to work and I had to make plans because of my position. I mean, there had to be some transfer of power. I was going to be off for an undetermined amount of time because I didn't know what was going to happen. So, you have to get all of that put together. And then there is the financial aspect of it. We're not independently wealthy, so I've got to make sure that we're still getting bills paid and everything, right?
Right. Yep.
Life has to continue as normal. And so that, there's just all of that is playing in your head really, really, like, louder than the loudest loudspeaker.
Yeah. The head games are the problem that
Yeah.
people maybe we can help people get through it with that aspect of it if they're going through getting ready to go for surgery or whatever,
Hmm.
or still have a hard time dealing with being told that you have cancer. Um,
Right.
it's not. I mean, I talked to some people and I said, it's okay. It was a walk in the park and everything. Like, no, no, it was not. I'm sorry, it was not. You're gonna have them emotional moments. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
the problem is that if you turn around and you try to split things up a little bit more than what are we doing here?
What
I
am I
keep
doing? You do it.
that's okay.
You be in control.
No, that's fine. The
You make yourself big when we're talking. Can you control that?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I get that right there.
Oh
Beady
God, this is going to
beady.
be an emotional evening.
We can cut this out.
Okay. I don't know. It's kind of fun. Maybe people will enjoy it.
Yeah. Cancer affect us the same way. We can just
Okay.
leave it like
So
that. We can leave it
okay.
like that. So anyway, the head games alone are the problem.
Hmm.
So when
God, Lord.
nah,
You go. Why are you not? I want you bigified. I'm
I'm
going to
trying.
stop playing this game. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, so what the problem is that I had was I got angry. I got very angry.
Hmm.
Why? Bah, 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 bah. Okay, and then I got to actually talk myself off the edge. We had said last week, got to come in from the ledge about it.
Hmm.
I'm blaming people for something that was more than likely caused by me myself.
Hmm.
That was the hurdle that we had to deal with. Um, I was like, I almost turned into a nasty person with the whole cancer thing.
So let
But
me ask you if I can. Who
sure,
who were you blaming? I mean, where did you put where was the blame coming from? I'm just really curious because that's an interesting perspective.
yeah, everybody around me was like, wow, oh, okay. It was almost like I had a chip on my shoulder.
Hmm.
I smoke, but I blame this, the tobacco company. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Okay.
gotcha.
I blamed, well, I can't have this. I don't want that. Or if you know, for working, with gasoline and stuff like that, I blamed everybody but myself.
Hmm.
And the other part of it is that I waited too long.
That's what I did.
This could have been dealt with because you know why? You have that fear. You have the fear of being told, guess what? You do have cancer. You have that fear of being told, and it did happen. Later on, they had turned around and told me to get my affairs in order. That was worse than getting told you have cancer. That end
Hmm.
of it, and I'm sure we'll get into that down the road. But yeah, I mean, and then thinking about my family. All right, what's going to happen if you know? Now there's stories out there. You got these. I call them cancer cowboys. I survived it. I did this. I'm good. And as they light up another cigarette, or you're seeing that they're not doing the right thing to help themselves, and that's a bad thing to, show somebody else. Michelle, I
Yeah.
got a little video here. I was a little apprehensive about doing it. It's about what actually this is prior to my surgery. Okay,
Hmm.
but this has a little bit how I handled it, and but what brought me to the point where I've stopped being angry and stop blaming other people and take control of myself. So I hope you don't mind me playing this.
Oh, yes, please do.
Well, here goes nothing. That little man right there was born the day before I had my first surgery. That night, I went in. The next day, I went into and had my surgery done on the 17th. He was born on the 16th of December. This little man right here did nothing but worry about his pop, making sure that everything I had or everything I did was great. Danny's first haircut. He didn't want nobody else but me. This is when I was told by the doctor that to get my affairs in order. I was a sick pup right there, really, really bad, and wasn't happy. I decided that you know what, I'm gonna fight this to the bitter end. I decided not to shave until I got good news. Huh, you can see how long the beard was. Well, obviously, things worked out to the point where I'm still here, still fighting. Don't give up. Jimmy Valvano, one of the basketball coaches who died of cancer, his key word was don't give up, don't ever give up. You see the boys? I didn't give up. This is my rock. Every time I woke up from a surgery, guess who was there? You got it. That was a tough one. But if it wasn't for them, okay, I probably wouldn't be here. Okay,
Hmm.
because I was a hardhead. I was, I'll do the suffering. I'll do this. I do that until um, I started understanding a little bit more about what was going on. What the hell do I know about tumors or? And they kept saying, "Well, this one's not invasive." So invasive. What are you
The
talking about?
cancer?
Yeah, the tumor itself didn't. It was attached to the wall, but it wasn't going through, and that's how
Oh, yeah.
that's how they stage bladder cancer. It's how deep it is, or did it punch right through?
It's the same with colon cancer.
And,
Yeah.
that's what rang true with you last week when we talked about it. That yours
Hmm.
did get through one layer of it.
Hmm. Yeah,
That
it
that
did. They, but they thought they got everything out. Um, they thought, the surgeon was very comfortable that she removed everything and they check your lymph nodes and everything else. And she called me right before Thanksgiving with just excellent news because my surgery was on November 17th of 2017. And so she called me before Thanksgiving and said, "Oh my gosh, great news. I got it all. Nothing's in your lymph nodes. And I don't even think you're going to have to go to chemo, but we're going to go ahead and, set you up with an oncologist just to be sure."
that's the
And
other.
yeah, and then I went to one who I know I'd be dead. I talked about this last week. I'd be dead if I'd have gone to that one
Yeah.
because it was just a clearinghouse of people at that clinic. And so I called my doctor again, who was my hero, and I said, I need you to do me another favor. I need you to make sure that I get to go to the oncologist that my surgeon is recommending because I can't go to this person I just met. And he made it happen. And I was able to go see that doctor in December, and I started chemo in January because he did not know me, and he likened this to gardening, and I love gardening.
Yep.
And he said, imagine that you're out in the garden and you've got this beautiful bed of soil and you have your plants in a row and there's not a weed in sight. But then, across the yard, there's a dandelion that's turned into the white head full of seed heads. and a little breeze comes along and dislodges just a couple of those little guys, and they land in your soil, and you don't even notice they're there until they're bigger, right? And you've
Right.
got more dandelions growing. And I was like floored, number one, that he, did use a gardening analogy, but it totally made sense to me. And
Yeah.
that's when he said, we're going to do a round of chemo. But he always, I do have to say, he always gave me 2 or 3 choices, right? You don't need to start chemo right away if you don't feel comfortable with it. We can have a wait and see. We could do nothing, and you could just go your merry way, and maybe it doesn't do anything, maybe it does. But this doctor always gives me my options and what's going to work, how it's going to work, as best as he can tell me from the past experience of other patients. But he is a true partner physician or oncologist, and all of my doctors have been that way. They involve me in the decision making process, and they give me a lot of information, printouts, handouts, links to go check out. Whatever I ask for, I've been very lucky and been able to get it.
And that is a major part. Now, don't forget. Now, I'm in another state. I'm not used to my home state. I had all my doctors, knew where everything was, where to go. I feel like I was in foreign territory. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because Marie, it was so far away, like an hour and a half away from where we lived,
Hmm.
that they kept me to the first surgery. I know we were going to get into this later on, but it's
Hmm.
important. Well, just to keep talking what we're doing here, I think it's very important. Um,
Hmm.
I woke up in a room, and Marie was sitting right there, and
Hmm.
okay, and this and that, and I couldn't believe that I was attached to a bag.
Oh.
Okay, and
Mm.
I couldn't imagine the amount of blood that was going into that bag. Okay, so now Marie's sitting there, and they said you got to drink a lot of water. You got to keep drinking water. You got to drink as much water as you can. You got to flood yourself. And Marie's the type, Marie's the type of woman who will. If she's told something, she's going to follow the book. Okay,
Hmm.
whatever, however the way to describe it, that's the way it's going to be. Quick, for instance, going to the hospital. Okay, I'm driving and I had MapQuest. Back then, you would get it printed out. So we had MapQuest printed out, and we get in the car, and it was a gated place where we lived, and I'm backing the car up, okay, and she went like this with the paper, turn right at the gate. I almost lost it. Are you nuts? Uh, I said, I know where
Oh,
we're at. I don't know how to get to the hospital. Yeah, but that's the lighthearted
that's
side
funny.
of it. You know what I mean? That 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 we think back about
Yeah.
going through this trauma. And they kept me overnight. Actually, they kept me 48 hours. I was supposed to go home uh, that night after they
Hmm.
did it. They did it early in the morning, and he came in to see me. I guess it was like 6 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
And he says, Tom, we're keeping you in here. He says, because you're bleeding. You're bleeding pretty good. He said, we got them all out. I said, what do you mean, all? What are you talking about? He says,
Mm.
well, we thought you had 2. We had 6. So 6 the first shot out. 6 tumors that were removed.
Mm.
So I'm just like, wow, wow, wow. And
That
then,
explains all that bleeding right there, huh? Because
yeah,
they're
yeah,
pulling them from your bladder lining,
right. He's
essentially.
and he said, and none intrusive. I looked at Marie when he left. I
And
said,
you're
what do
like,
you?
define intrusive, sir.
Yeah, I said, and what does that mean? You know what I mean? Because there again, you're naive to what all the lingo of what you're
Mhm.
saying. So yeah, I mean, so I was 48 hours in the hospital, and then I had to drive home. Okay, with this bag hanging off me in the car. All right, and I said to Maria, I said, "We're going to be doing this. You're going to have to, you're going to have to give me a hand driving." You know, I don't know where she's definitely afraid of the interstate and stuff like that. So now we get home. Now we're in a farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere, Okay, you can see my neighbor's porch light, and it looks like a lightning bug. That's how far away they are. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean that night was horrible, horrific. The next day was even worse. Was even worse. So I go to the go. I guess it was 5 days. I had was with the bag on. Okay.
Mhm.
Now back in Jersey, we'd say if you had a bag on, you were half drunk. That's what we used to call getting a bag on. But anyway, now I go back to them, and they take the what do you call it, the catheter out.
Mhm.
And he said, well, it's going to burn a little bit when you urinate, blah, 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 blah. Burn. It was like a 5 alarm fire. And then had to drive home for an hour and a half. But that's the hand I was dealt. That was the cards I was dealt, and I had to play that hand. I had no other choice, no other way of doing it. But playing with my head now is because, am I cured? Or they're going to keep coming back? So now I had to wait almost like 180 days, okay, and then go back. And when I went back, there it was. You had to do it again. Found a couple more. So mine kept coming and kept coming. And this went on for 3 years. That's why you see the beard.
Yeah.
I started to understand that when they told me to get my affairs in order, which was a couple years after my first surgery, that this is going to be a long drawn out thing. It just wasn't going to end. And the problem was worrying about kidneys, worrying about everything else.
Mhm.
So this was just not one and done and
Mhm.
move on. It might be somewhere else, or it might be, whatever.
Somewhere in that system of where it would
Yeah,
travel logically. Yeah.
right. Right. And you know yourself, Michelle. You know that in the back of your mind, it's still there. There's something going on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Even if you're free of cancer physically, although the genes or the cells are always there, so you do have to always be careful. But you could be cancer free physically, and you will never be cancer free mentally or emotionally
Yeah.
ever. You go in for your routine, visits, blood draws, that type of thing. And from the time that they pull the blood out of your body until the time that you've read the results and then met with your doctor to hear the words out loud, it never goes away completely. And you just have to find ways to cope with it and keep that positive mindset because it's always creeping in,
Yeah.
right?
So
I didn't even know I had stage 4 cancer for 2 years after I had stage 4.
really,
Yeah, I didn't realize it. I didn't go to Dr. Google, okay? And my doctor may have told me that I had stage 4 cancer after, because when it spread from my colon, it went to an ovary. And I'm going to get the number wrong, but he said that's like one in over 10,000 women that would happen to.
wow.
That it goes not to something directly connected to your colon. And mine went to an ovary, and so I ended up. My second surgery was actually a radical hysterectomy,
Hmm.
and so mine was just a very weird way that it traveled. But I didn't realize that once it went to another organ, that's when it is quote unquote stage 4. My husband knew it,
Yeah.
but it was an unspoken thing, and he thought I knew, and neither one of us could bear it. And this is his mindset. He told me this about 6 months ago. He said, I just thought it was an unspoken rule that we just would not use those words. So he
Wow.
knew, and I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah. Marie is of the nature that you'll be fine. You'll get better. It's going to be
Mhm.
better. Everything's going to be okay. That happy end of it. And I kept telling her, no, I gotta make sure that we are good. That you're going to be okay, and and move on from there.
Mhm.
And then when I had said earlier that I was angry with everybody. Okay. All of a sudden, after he, like the second time I had to go in, and they took three more out,
Oh my
you know,
God.
and it just kept coming. So all together, in a 3 year period, I had 8 surgeries, 18 tumors taken out. So just chronologically going down the line, and at one point I had a count of wonder how much it's going to be this time. All right. And after telling my family, now my daughter lived, close by us, and we, naturally, with the boys and stuff, and they actually kept me. The little guys actually kept me going. They were the ones
Mm-hmm.
that, um, and I know
They
my
were
daughter was.
children are hope,
Thank you,
right?
thank you.
They're your future.
My daughter would bring them over. Okay, one guy wouldn't leave. He was supposed to go to a birthday party. He said, no, I'm gonna stay with Pop. I'm gonna hang out with Pop, and he'd bring his cars over, and the little guy Danny, he would come in. I never forget him. He had like corduroy pants on and a polo shirt with long sleeves, and he had a tablet. And he come walking past me, and he said, "Hey, Pop, you got Wi-Fi? You can't even spell Wi-Fi, you maniac." You know. But they would sit with them. They spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time with them, and that, like I said, I got moved from the angry stage to where, guess what? There are decent people out there that looking to help you. But the scary
Mhm.
part, Michelle, I don't know about you, but the scary part for me was going back, knowing if there was something else going on. Okay, um, where he did the surgery. My bladder at that point was pretty numb from the first or second one was pretty numb, so I had no more pain, so I didn't feel anything.
Mhm.
Once in a while, I was passing blood. One time, I had to go back after the surgery, after they took the catheter out. I had to go
Uh-huh.
back because blood clots were
Oh my
blocking
God.
were blocking the canal, and I couldn't urinate.
And you couldn't go?
No, so I would have to go
Oh my
back
God.
up to the hospital. Every other place wouldn't take me because it was a pre-existing condition. They wouldn't take me.
Oh
So I had to go
gosh.
back to where it was, back up to the hospital again, and I'd have to get another catheter put in. Okay. So this, like I said, this went on and on and on and on. And there again, the mental aspect of it in my head was like, this bullshit. This ain't worth, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
pain, the aggravation going through it until I seen them little faces. That was, and Marie, Marie was always happy go lucky. And it got
Mm-hmm.
me into gardening. It got me into, like I said, we had 17 acres, and we
Mm-hmm.
grew just about everything from there. You know.
That's such a blessing to be able to do that. And it takes your mind off of it. We got very heavily into gardening as well. I mean we had, areas that we had been gardening in on our property since we
Mhm.
had moved here early, like 2002, 2003. So we had little garden areas that we had, put together. But JJ started building beds on purpose and building them up a little bit and seriously understanding the soil structure and
Right.
I
Right.
mean it almost became a distraction and a goal to grow as much as we could and know where it came from and keep us busy and everything else.
Yeah. I used to go see I used to go see my doc. Like I said, we almost became friends. We were very friendly. He would call me
Mhm.
once in a while. You doing all right? Everything okay? Yeah, I'm doing good. All right, just checking. Talk to you later. Click. Hang up. But I would bring him
That's cool.
zucchinis. I would bring him actually zucchini flowers because there's an old Italian restaurant, old recipe that we would egg and flour them and
Hmm.
fry the flowers of the
I have
zucchini.
still not tried those, and
Oh,
I
it's
know it's a
it's
delicacy.
it's delicious. So I would bring him that stuff up, and not
Hmm.
to sound talk out of school or anything like that. But one time he was examining me, and he's looking through the scope, and you know where he's at, okay? And he's talking about how he likes Trader Joe's sausage. I mean, and I said, really? I mean,
That's funny.
not the conversation I want to have. You know what I mean? But but that's how it lightened up for me.
Oh.
Okay, to get out of that poor me and that whole routine.
Hmm.
Be, and that was a big help. It really was a big help.
Hmm.
Even after he told me to get my affairs in order. All right. That was another really 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 low point. But in the same token, it brought a lot of clarity to me about how was I doing things, how was I
Mhm.
treating other people. You know, is there such a thing as um, being nice? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just that was a big to do. I had neighbors would come by. All right, neighbor down the street, he would bring me flats of eggs from
Oh,
his
wow.
chickens. Okay, I
Uh-huh.
had the guy who I bought the house from on his farm. Okay,
Mhm.
that surrounded me. He would bring me over ground beef that when they would butcher a cow and stuff like that, a whole big box frozen, of
Yeah,
ground
but
beef and stuff.
still.
Yeah, and that was like these people don't know me from Adam, don't know me from nobody. But I was getting to before was the scary part for me was going to this doctor in his office and
Mhm.
seeing the amount of people in that waiting room. Okay, that scared me. That scared me to the bitter end, to the point where what's going on with us? What's going on as a society? And
Mhm.
it's not just me that has this. Look around all these
Right.
people around there, and I see a couple of old guys that were in shorts with the bag hanging strapped to their leg.
Wow.
Good God Almighty, you know what I mean? And women and stuff like that. And I was just in the urology section of this place,
Mhm.
waiting to go see a doctor. I even said to him, his name is Tatora. He's well retired now. I said, Frank, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, how do you are you a heavy drinker or what? Because how do you go home at night after you told 15 people that they have cancer or
Yeah.
get your life in order? I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I couldn't do it.
It would be very hard. It would just be incredibly hard. And what's funny is when you were talking about the waiting room, and so I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself, but I want to get the thought out while I'm thinking about it. The first time I went in so my first chemotherapy session, if you will, was pills. So I would take 5 pills in the morning and 5 pills in the afternoon. So I spaced them out exactly 12 hours apart so that it would be an equal dose. Then you did that for like 2 weeks, or yeah, 2 weeks and a week off. Then they would take your blood, make sure you were okay. And I did that for 6 months. The second round of chemotherapy, actually, I got a port put into my chest, right? I was the last surgery when the hospital shut down for COVID. I was
Oh,
the last surgery. And had I not gotten this port installed that day, I wouldn't have been able to get the treatment after I had my hysterectomy, but when I was stage 4, right? I
hmm
wouldn't have been able to have that treatment because it had to go through this. So the first time I went into that room, into the infusion center, um, there were, oh gosh, there's probably about 10 chairs in there, loungers. And they all have the little metal thing up behind them with the hanging bars and all that, and the monitors and everything. And there wasn't an empty seat. And that wasn't just colon cancer patients. Okay, there
right,
were breast cancer patients, people having different types of treatments for various. But I didn't know that,
right,
right?
exactly.
So I'm sitting in there and I'm seeing real frail women, that look like they're probably my age or younger, without hair. Some they have these special caps to stimulate your scalp if you have certain treatment. But I was the same way. That's what I'm getting at. I'm like, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah,
What is going on here? And why do we all have these cancers? What's going on?
yeah, yeah. It's mind boggling to the point was, and not to get off track or anything like that. I just want
Mm-hmm.
everybody to understand that what we went through, what I went through was 16 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
From
Mine
when
was
it's
7.
when it started, okay, was
Yeah.
16 years ago. I wasn't cleared, so they say clear, until 21 or 22. I'm not. I don't pay attention to that. Okay, because you know what? All right, that can change in a heartbeat. That can uh,
Mm-hmm.
come back tenfold sometimes with you. It's how you move forward with it
Hmm.
and grab a hold of it. Like I said, I know people had lung cancer and you still see them smoking. All right.
That blows me away. I knew people who had cancer who smoked until they died, and
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
really bad that they had that addiction so poorly, or they didn't see a way out of what they were doing.
Right.
You're not in their head, you're not in their life, you don't know their situation.
Yeah.
But loved ones that just continued to smoke and everything, as if there just wasn't a way out, and it did break my heart. And that's before I had cancer. When my surgeon told me uh, in our appointment leading up to surgery, she said, I don't care if you walk up to the hospital door the morning of your surgery huffing on a cigarette. When you put that cigarette out, I don't want you to ever put any more nicotine in your body in any way, shape, or form, because you won't heal properly if you don't do that,
That's right.
right? You're going to heal faster without the nicotine. And I had I had a few cigarettes the night before. I was a little on the nervous side, but I was also doing a colon clean out, so I was pretty weak, and I wasn't wanting to go sit outside.
Yeah.
We didn't smoke in the house, so I did have a few cigarettes that day, the day before surgery. So it was November 16th, 2017. Now there are some dates you do remember.
Yep.
I have not had a cigarette since then. No, and I haven't been. No, there were no patches. There was no vaping. None of that. That was it. That's what got me to finally completely quit smoking.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful now, because now if I get a cold or something, I don't think, oh God, I hope I don't get bronchitis. I hope I don't get this. I hope I don't get
Yeah.
that.
And how I had bad addiction. I was doing 5 packs a day. I had a lot going on in my life at that time, and I was eating them one after the other, after the other, after the other, and I knew something was wrong. So at that point in my life, I was thinking, you know what, hell bent, I'm going to do this and do that. Until you get that, until you get that, guess what? This is what you have, and here's what you got to do. Whoa.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had said last week, I don't want to repeat myself, but um, when I told this one doctor that I quit, he said, "And how
Hmm.
many cigarettes are you smoking?" I said 5. He says, "As far as I'm concerned, you're still smoking as much as you did." He said that
Hmm.
would equivalent to maybe a pack a day from that point on till now, even though you threw them
Hmm.
away. He said it's still in your system, and there again,
Yeah.
angry. All right, but then later on in life, later on down the road, I've seen what was going on. One quick thing was my grandson. I had
Yeah.
the surgery. And I came home. I got into bed, and Marie had the bag on the floor. Okay, and in a the hospital tub,
Uh-huh.
and had the towel underneath that, and the bag in there. My grandson came in. Look, what's that? All right, and I said, "That's Pop, and he's hurt." So I didn't want to get too much into it. That little sucker jumped up in the bed, climbed up in the bed. Me and him watched TV tonight. SpongeBob SquarePants, I must say. Okay, I mean,
That's funny.
yeah, and that's what kept me going was that them little guys that no matter what was going on in my life, they
Hmm.
wanted to see Pop and Baby Nana. They called Marie Baby Nana, and we wanted to see Baby Nana and Pop, and that's it. And that's
That's
what
so
actually
sweet.
that's what actually kept me going. And then later on, when I got a little bit older, I would explain to him what was going on with me, the
Hmm.
whole bit. And the one little guy said to me, "Pop, you gonna die?"
Oh
I said,
God.
"Not today. I'm not." Like that. Okay. I said, "But eventually, we're all gonna die." I
Right.
don't. I don't want to die there. I don't want to do that, Pop. And then he'd hug me a little bit and off to SpongeBob SquarePants. You know what I mean? But that's an eye opener. That plays with your
Yeah.
head.
And they're so innocent too, right? He sees it, it's different. What's that? Okay. And then they just
Yeah.
move on. All right. Cool.
I tell
Just
you, Marie
tell
came
him.
in one night to change the bag, to empty the bag.
Uh-huh.
She kneeled on it and shot everything back up in her. You talk about like a cat
Oh.
on the roof.
Oh. Oh.
And she's crying. "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry."
Oh.
But yeah, I mean,
You wouldn't think it could go back up in that tube, but I guess it had nowhere else to
oh, it
go.
can. It can, and it did.
Oh,
You talk about a
oh,
sensation that is. Holy crap.
yeah,
Anyway,
that'd be
but
eye-opening.
I do believe talking about it will get it out and get the frustration
Mhm.
out of your head, and also um, you need to talk. You do need to talk about it. You need to
Yeah. Now,
because it's
I'm curious. Did you go to a counselor through any of this? Like, you had the group. Did you have the opportunity to, maybe see some plans, some hospitals, have what they call nurse navigators,
mhm,
and they help you through. They help you literally navigate, the system. They advocate for people who might not have insurance. They help you with some of the mental aspect. I didn't know about nurse navigators until 3 or 4 years into my
mhm,
journey. But I did have a family counselor that I would see. And to this day, I do not have a problem going to see my counselor to talk about things that are bothering me and stuff. And I hope people watching this, realize that generally speaking, you're not alone. There are programs out there. If you can't talk to a family member, if you can't talk to a friend about it, or even a stranger, there there are programs out there. Ask your doctor if there's a program like that, either through your hospital, through your insurance plan, or through the community, or even a church. Your church might have a group or something.
yeah, that's very important because you don't turn it down. Don't I mean
No.
if you're constantly thinking about it or you're afraid to say something to your family, you have a problem. Okay,
Well,
and
now
it's
you're internalizing everything, and that, my friends, could in turn become another bout with cancer.
stress
Mm.
everybody plays that off the stress end of it plays it off.
Mm.
That is a problem that affects your immune system so bad
We need to
that
have
you
a whole discussion
oh yeah
about stress and cortisol and
yep
everything else, right down to the traffic, right? You and I both, we were both truck drivers, over the road truck drivers, and we have had some very colorful conversations about that. And, you can get pretty stressed when you're driving a truck. And back when we were driving, you didn't have a cell phone to call people. You had to stop every morning and call in and tell them where you were. And it was a different world.
yeah
And so everything was internalized, right? You couldn't talk to people and talk it out. You were sitting in your truck listening to probably Rush Limbaugh all day long because you only got AM radio. And that and TalkNet. I remember that TalkNet was a thing.
I
And
had I had a Bob Seger tape that I never took out of my player until finally one night it just shot out.
oh,
And I'm
oh,
done. I
that's
quit.
funny. That's funny.
Talk,
But
we're
yeah,
talking about talking to a counselor and stuff. I like to
yeah,
joke around a lot. I that's my escape. That's like a pressure relief valve for me. To
uh-huh.
comment on something. 9 times out of 10, people will laugh with you. You know what I mean? Once in a while, you get some idiot. Who are you talking to? One of them things. But most of the time, people laugh about some of the stuff that I say, and I don't mean no harm by it. But
No.
the one guy I went to go see about the bladder cancer, I was apprehensive about it. I didn't want to go. The hell, I'm going to go tell somebody else about my problems. Well, I'm sitting there, and he come in. Excuse me, I just got a few more things to do. And he went over and drank his coffee,
Hmm.
and he's talking to me. Would you like some coffee? I said, no, I'm good, like that. And he made another cup of coffee, and so he started going through about what he was talking about, and he kept drinking his coffee. And he, boy, this tastes good. This is them new pods they had back, talking like that.
Oh, Kurtz.
And he kept drinking this. So I said, so how long have you had this coffee addiction? Michelle, he went out of his mind. He laughed so hard with that. Okay. It was another one that he said, say what I mean? He says, you got to talk about it. He says, I've been drinking coffee most of my life and, joking back with me.
Yeah.
But me and him got along to the point where he's the same. But you're an angry guy. You got
You have to
anger.
have that. You have to have a good rapport with your doctor, with their nursing staff. With If you go through infusion and stuff, you have to have a
Hmm.
good rapport with them. I had to. I've done everything. I had to have radiation.
Huh.
I got, those folks were so fun. I mean, radiation is no joke. I mean, it
Yeah.
just wreaks havoc. And they would let me come in with a little playlist because I had to be in the underneath the thing for a while. And I would go in and say, they would say, "What music do you want to listen to while you're in there?" And they had like one of those Spotify type things, so I could say, a genre, and it really depended on my mood.
Yeah.
So I would usually pick a song before I got in there and I'd say, "Hey, would you mind playing?" And then whatever song. And then that would sort of get that mood and that feel of music.
Mm-hmm.
And music got me through a lot of this too, because I love music anyway. But there are songs that can really evoke positive feelings and
Oh,
emotions. And again, we were talking about stress. Well, then on the other side of it, those good feelings and the endorphins that are released from your brain will help you to heal as well, right? So there's
yeah.
the two different things in opposite directions that can make or break what happens within your body that you don't even feel or know about, right?
Yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've popped over an hour here, and we don't want to drag
Mm-hmm.
this on too much longer because we have a lot to talk about, and I think an hour. Do you agree
Oh yeah.
would be good? So I think next time I think we're going to talk about our surgeries and the
Okay.
aftermath of it. Um, there again, having a surgery, and then your family, your loved ones, dealing with that also. That's
Yes.
that's that's a pretty big to do. All right. Well, anything final words,
I
Madame?
want to thank everybody who's coming to watch these videos and reiterate that as soon as we have a few of these under our belt, we'll release podcasts of these discussions. And thanks if you're here watching it when it first gets put up. Thanks if you're a new subscriber to both or one of our channels. And thanks for being a part of the discussion. I please, 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 everybody, use the comment section to either of our channels, please, because
Mm-hmm.
I notice in some of my cancer videos that I've put out on my own channel that conversations start taking their own place. Somebody will mention something and somebody else will reply to that person. And now a conversation has started within there. And you will meet people in there that will, change your life in one way
Sure.
or another. 99% of the time, it's going to be for the better.
Yeah.
So, be a part of the conversation, please. We're kind of here to help people get it started, don't you think, Tom?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, our stories are our own stories, but there's so many
And we are
relatable.
not medical professionals.
I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm not a scientist, like I said before, but I thought I was in the 70s. But besides that, I what we're saying is we lived through this. We're still living through it, okay? And if
Mhm.
you're just starting out and having problems, we're here to help you out because you know what? You need somebody to talk to. You need somebody to listen to. It has to be relatable,
Yep.
basically. And like I said, don't make the mistakes that I made by waiting. If you feel symptoms or you have a problem, go see a professional. Go see a doctor as soon as you can.
Yes.
Don't wait on it, because you know what? Life's too short. You know,
And
and
if you
then.
have a recurring problem, like you and I talked about this, and if you indulge me for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
you had recurring bladder infections, and your doctor, a certain doctor and group, whatever, may have poo-pooed it because they are common, but it was the beginning of something worse.
That's
So
right.
if you have something that is not normal, ask about it early, and then if it continues, make sure that you follow up early and say, "Okay, I'm just not feeling comfortable with the initial, can we look a little deeper into this?"
Mm-hmm.
Because you could save yourself a whole lot of trouble if you do
Yeah.
that.
Michelle. I'm going to ask you a question, and I know we didn't talk about this before, but I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. How
Mm-hmm.
about maybe in November,
Mm-hmm.
maybe second week in November, something like that, we do a live.
Oh, I would love to do that.
Okay, and then we can answer questions right then and there. People
Yes.
have anything, we can we can do it that way, and I think that
Time
would be
and date
more.
to be determined.
Yeah, we'll figure it out and see exactly how it's going, and I think a live might help. I think it really will.
Oh yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah.
all right. I guess
Well, thanks again, Tom.
I love it, kid. I really do. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, I
And
love you too.
listen, I'll talk to everybody later.
See you later, everybody.